poison. Poison ivy. Why not send Junior home early? I've got some wild oats to sow. On the other hand, youth does have its advantages. Endurance, stamina. Forget the geriatric bat. Come, join me. My garden needs tending. I'll take it from here, pal.
Wouldn't you like the earrings too?
Some lucky boy's about to hit the honeypot. I'll include an evening of my company for the winner. I'll bring everything you see here, plus everything you don't.
I bid $50,000 for poison ivy.
100,000. And I'm in $500,000.
$1 million.
$2 million.
You don't have it. $3 million.
I'll borrow it from you. $4 million.
$5 million.
That's a utility belt, not a money belt. $6 million.
$7 million. Never leave the cave without it.
Welcome to the Superhero Cinephile Podcast. I am half of your host, Perry Constantine.
And as always, I am the other half, Derek Ferguson.
How you doing today, Derek?
Oh, pretty good. Trying to stay out of the heat. It's like 90 degrees here in Brooklyn.
Oh, wow. I don't know if you heard, but over here we had a bunch of flooding in the area.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like all of like southern Japan, it's just got like massive amounts of flooding just because of all we got. The other night, no joke, like 3 times I was woken up in the middle of the night by emergency alerts.
Really?
Yeah, but we're in a safe place. Like I think I mentioned before, we're up on a mountain, so
yeah,
and it's a very level area, so we don't really have anything to worry about. So the alerts are just more of an annoyance than anything.
Okay. Well, listen, you know what? It's good to know.
It is. Yeah, it is.
I mean, just in case. I mean, you never know, and my whole thing is safety first. I'd rather know than not know. At least this way, listen. As we have said before, the way this year has been, there is no sense in taking any chances.
Right.
Literally anything could happen.
Right. Yeah. And so my my fiance, she's officially entered the second trimester now.
All right.
So this is the part where usually the mother gets a lot more energy. She's starting to get a lot more, she's getting used to the pregnancy and everything, and the baby's starting to move around and stuff and can start to hear things. So yeah, like everybody I've talked to and everything I've read says like this is like the fun period of pregnancy that we're entering now. So that's good.
Okay.
But
well, you know what? You're about to see for yourself.
Yeah, I am. We'll see how it works out.
Everybody always says it's fun until they actually go through it. And
right.
Right. And all of a sudden, then it's a whole different thing.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, you know what? Enjoy it whatever happens.
Right. Yeah. We're just kind of taking it one day at a time. In fact, last night, which is one of the reasons why I ended up oversleeping and waking up late to record for our meeting, is because I got home last night from work and she wanted to watch the new Ju-on series on Netflix. So I don't know if you heard about this, but it's like an origin series. It's like it's 6 episodes, but it's really like just a 3-hour movie broken up into 6 parts because each episode is only about 30 minutes. But it's really good. It's an all Japanese. It's a Japanese series, all Japanese cast. Japanese language and all that. And because I love the original movie, but I didn't really care for the American remake. And there were a bunch of sequels. I only saw the first sequel, which was just kind of okay. But yeah, this series, it's pretty good. So if you're into horror stuff, then I recommend checking out the Ju-on series.
With all due respect, I need no more recommendations to watch anything. I had posted something the other day where I said that, and people think I'm making this up, but seriously, no. I have stuff in my Netflix queue that's been there, movies and TV shows that's been there, no lie, for 10 years, and I have not watched
I believe it. I believe it because someone posted something yesterday, like some GIF or something, and or like no, I posted like it was like a fist bump GIF or something, and it was like in this writers group I'm in, and someone commented, she's like, "Oh, I love that show." I'm like, "What show is that?" I just thought it was a funny GIF, and she's like, "Oh, that's Santa Clarita Diet." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've got that on my list along with like 10,000 other things."
Yeah. I mean, and I have made up my mind this summer since, of course, with the COVID, because usually me and my wife, we usually, like traveling a lot. We used to take like a lot of road trips. But this year, I mean, with the COVID, we haven't went anywhere, especially not Florida, which is on fire.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. So I said that, you know what? This summer, since we're going to be home, I'm going to make an effort to watch some of this shit. And anything I haven't watched, I'm just going to get rid of it. I'm just going to delete it because it's ridiculous.
And so let me ask you a question about, did she laugh at you when you said that?
Who?
Your wife? Did she laugh at you when you said that you had made this commitment to watch everything or delete it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, man. Are you kidding me? Her size was hurting. She said, yeah, right. Because, yeah, I mean, you know what? There's just too much stuff. But you know what? I'm tired of looking at it every time I go on Netflix.
But you know what? You're like me, because we've had this conversation before, like with the movies we own. Because I still have movies from like 10 years ago that I bought that I still haven't watched. So when you say you're going to take stuff off and not watch it, I'm like, yeah, all right, bullshit.
I have a stack of Blu-rays. There's about 30 of them, no lie.
Yeah.
They're still in the wrapper.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
They're still in the wrapper. I haven't watched them, which is why my wife forbade me from buying any more Blu-rays. She said, you know what? She said, I got to teach you like a child. She said, watch the ones you have, and then you can buy more.
See, my thing is, I'm a little bit better because I don't buy the new ones and not watch them, but I buy the used ones. So I go to like the used DVD shops and stuff like that, the recycle shops, and like I stock up there, especially when I go back to the States because they're like $2 a pop now when you go back to the States. So I will load up on those, and Best Buy as well. Last time I was in the States, Best Buy was selling like DVDs, like excess DVDs for like $2 a pop.
Well, I don't buy DVDs anymore. I just buy Blu-rays. But I mean, like Blu-rays is like $5.
Right. Well, you know what? I will if it's it depends on what kind of movie it is. If it's like like a big action epic or something like that or something that I really care about, then I'll go for the Blu-ray. But if not, if it's like a comedy or something like that or a drama, then usually the DVD is just fine for me.
Yeah. Well, I said, well, because as far as I'm concerned, that's it. I don't care what they come up with after Blu-rays. I'm not buying it. I upgraded from VHS to DVD, and then I upgraded from DVD. And mind you, I replaced my whole movie collection from VHS to DVD, and then from DVD to Blu-ray. So
I think if anything,
I'm not doing this.
No, if anything, I don't think they'd come out with a new format. I think they just might go all digital.
Yeah.
And well, and just go with the, because right now when you buy a movie on like iTunes or Amazon or something like that, technically you don't own a copy of the movie. You own a license to view the movie.
Right.
So I think we're going to see more of that coming along.
Well, the reason why because my wife, she asked me, she said, well, if you want to see the movie, you can just go on Amazon or you can do this. Well, no, sometimes I just feel like watching Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom or The Wild Bunch or, Full Metal Jacket at 2:00 in the morning. And I don't want to have to go through the hassle of looking at all these different streaming services to see, who's got it. I just want to be able to just go to my bookshelf and pull down the movie, stick it in the thing, and just watch it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I got you. Okay. All right. So I think now we can bullshit it for long enough. We can get into the movie of the day. And this was my pick. And that is even though we did a Batman movie last week and a Batman movie a few weeks prior to that, when we did 66, I wanted to do Batman and Robin because, of course, as everybody who's listening probably already knows, the director, Joel Schumacher, passed away a few weeks ago. And we're not like most Batman fans, like most superhero movie fans. Like you and I, we both have a lot of respect for Schumacher as a director because he made some really good movies.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I tell people all the time, and actually, when they go, they Google him and they look at all the movies that he made, they are actually surprised. They said, "Oh shit, he made that." I said, "Yeah." I said, "The guy was was a very well-respected, talented filmmaker."
Right. He did. He did A Time to Kill. He did 8mm, which was one of the best movies that Nicolas Cage has ever done.
Yeah.
And you know what? You can have Joker all you want, but Joaquin Phoenix was amazing in that movie as well.
Absolutely. I mean, Joel Schumacher. And to me, it's always a shame that people always want to reduce his career to just the 2 Batman movies that he made. And he unfairly got the label of being the guy that killed the franchise, which is not true.
Right. Well, also, he directed, he had a bit of a renaissance in his later years after Batman and Robin. He did Phone Booth, he did Tigerland, both with Colin Farrell, both were really good movies.
Yeah.
And he did The Client, Falling Down. I mean, Falling Down is like a modern classic. Or
matter of fact, I've been recommending Falling Down to people because I said that movie is even more relevant now.
Oh my God!
When it was first made.
I first saw Falling Down like 2 years ago. And then I'm just like, oh my God, this movie is so relevant today. And it was made in 1994, 1993?
Yeah.
And, also, of course, The Lost Boys, which a lot of people, like Lost Boys, I didn't care for too much. I wasn't too impressed by it. But that's because I didn't see it at the time. And if you saw Lost Boys at the time, Lost Boys completely reinvented vampires. Like, if not for Lost Boys, you do not have Buffy. You do not have the Vampire Diaries. You do not have any of this stuff that has happened with vampires in the modern day. Like, Lost Boys really kind of redefined vampires. Because up until that point, vampires were always just kind of like this, aristocratic Eastern European type of thing, very old style thing. But he took Lost Boys, he took vampires and he basically made them into punks.
Yeah.
And he brought that punk sensibility to the vampires, and that really redefined what the vampire is. And that's an approach that's still being reused to this day.
Exactly. Like you said, before the Lost Boys, vampires were Dracula knockoffs. That was it.
Exactly.
Dracula knockoff, which is why nobody thought nothing new could be done with vampires. But then you had Joel Schumacher, and you had who was it that directed Near Dark?
Crap.
I know it was a female director.
Was that Catherine Bigelow?
Yeah, Catherine Bigelow. Yeah, with Near Dark, you had movies like that reinvented the vampire.
Yeah, Catherine Bigelow.
Yeah. So,
which was, probably in no doubt influenced in some small part by Lost Boys, even though they came out the same year. But I imagine that might have been one of those cases, like, the studio gets wind of another studio doing something like with Deep Impact and Armageddon, and they decide, we're going to put out our own thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But as you so accurately say, these are movies that completely redefine the whole vampire thing. And like you said, you wouldn't have had everything that came after it without Lost Boys.
Right. Yeah.
So even though I'm not too crazy about the movie myself, but I think that was one of those movies that, and we've had this discussion before as well, certain movies you have to see at a certain time in your life. And when see it makes an indelible, kind of impression. Because I know people, that love The Goonies, they love The Lost Boys, they love, what is it, Fright Night, another vampire movie, Fright Night. And, I look at them, I say, well, they're all right, but,
Well, we were just talking about a perfect example of this. We were talking about the other day is The Dark Crystal.
Yeah.
Like, The Dark Crystal is one of those movies that inspires so much devotion in its fan base. And when I first watched it, it was like, I don't know, like maybe like 15 years ago. I was in university and stuff, and me and my buddy, we were in a Best Buy, and they had the Dark Crystal, like a new DVD release. It was on sale for like, $10 or something. And my buddy said, he's like, "Oh, Dark Crystal, that's an amazing movie." I'm like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's so good." I'm like, "All right, well, I should probably watch that." So I bought it, I watched it, and I'm like, "That's it?"
Yeah.
And it just didn't really impress me. And the reason I think is, and you mentioned this too, when you were commenting on a post someone made about like, the best fantasy films of the 80s. And you commented on how like you've tried to watch Dark Crystal so many times you just could not get into it. And I had the same thing. And I think my theory is that Dark Crystal is one of those movies that you had to have watched when you were a kid. Otherwise, you will not have that passion for it. It's not like something like what's the one, David Bowie and
Labyrinth.
Labyrinth. Like that's a legitimately good movie. Like I watched that as an adult, and I love that. But something like Dark Crystal, I think you have to have been at that certain point in your life to really.
Yeah, but it's David Bowie.
Right, exactly.
Now, mind you, if David Bowie had been in Dark Crystal, I probably would have loved Dark Crystal.
Well, yeah, David Bowie makes everything better.
Well, this is what I'm saying. I mean, to me, the whole thing about that movie is David Bowie, which is what everybody talks about. If you ask somebody what the actual plot of Labyrinth is, or ask them to name certain scenes, they can't do it.
I had a friend in high school, no joke. She had, because there's one scene in the movie when David Bowie's running naked. And she was such a David Bowie fanatic that she had gone frame by frame, and there is one single frame where she swears you can kind of see a little bit of David Bowie's penis.
Oh. See what I mean? See what I mean?
Yeah.
See what I mean? If you take David Bowie out of that movie, you don't have a movie.
No. Nobody cares about that movie without David Bowie.
Nobody cares.
And that's nothing against Jennifer Connelly, because she's another, brilliant actress, someone that you and I have both loved. But yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, you're right. That movie is all about David Bowie.
Yeah. And mind you, I love the Muppets. As a matter of fact, people crack up when I tell them this, but I don't care. Muppets Treasure Island is my favorite film version of that story.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have a whole lot of competition either, too.
Well, that's true, too. But I love Muppet Treasure Island. But, I mean, okay, Dark Crystal, I'm sorry. I just don't get it. And I have just come to the conclusion that it didn't catch me at the right age. I was an old jaded adult by the time I saw it, and I just didn't get it.
Yeah. All right. Now that's actually a nice transition, because actually Bowie was asked to be the Joker in the first Batman movie.
Yeah.
So that's actually kind of a nice little transition into this, because so we had a choice. There were two Joel Schumacher films, and we had to choose which one we wanted to talk about. Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, and I didn't want to do that thing where we just bash Joel Schumacher for 2 hours, because a lot of the problems with these movies were not his fault. And actually, Batman and Robin has kind of had a little bit of I don't want to say a renaissance, but people are kind of taking a second look at it in retrospect all these years later. And they're realizing that, it's cheesy, it's campy, it's not a good movie. Like, objectively, it's not a good movie, but it's fun. And I think that, and also I found out this when I was doing some research. It was kind of a defining moment for a lot of young people in the LGBTQ community at the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Joel Schumacher famously was an out gay man. He was very open about it, and claimed in an interview to have slept. We mentioned last time, he claimed to have slept with 20,000 men.
Right.
Which I don't know how he had the time to direct all these movies while he was doing all that.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Where'd you find the time?
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a little bit of speculation about that, but in fact, Mark Bernardin of the Fat Man Beyond podcast, he posted on Twitter that he'd heard that there's enough footage of Batman Forever for to release like a full 2.5 hour cut of it or something like that.
Really?
Because that movie was chopped to shit. The scenes were rearranged out of order. So a lot of the problems with that movie are related to that, but also the famously with Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones and all that. But also the studio butchered it to hell. And apparently there's a longer, darker cut of that movie that exists. And Mark Bernard had posted about this on Twitter with the hashtag release the 20,000 cut.
Oh God! Oh please.
But yeah, so this movie, Schumacher had been brought in for Batman Forever because after Batman Returns, which we talked about last week, the studio was terrified of releasing another film like Batman Returns. So
they definitely did not want the backlash from that movie from various family groups and critics, right, and people who just felt that no, this was not a family-friendly Batman, which is what Warner Brothers wanted, so that they could sell toys. Quite frankly, they could sell toys, and as you pointed out when we were talking about it, McDonald's actually pulled out of their Happy Meal deal. They had with them, the backlash against, Batman Returns was so severe, and rightly so, because it was not a movie made for kids. It wasn't.
Yeah. And plus all the sexual references and everything, and the how disgusting the Penguin was and all that. So parents freaked out, as we talked about last week. Go back and listen to our Batman Returns episode. Kids were taken out of the theater crying when they watched that movie.
Yeah, they took kids out of it because
I was almost one of them. I fully admit I was almost one of them, but I held it in because I'm like, I want to watch the rest of the Batman movie.
You said you toughed it out?
Yeah. Even at that age, I knew what was up.
I'm proud of you.
But yeah, so all this stuff had happened, and then so they went to Joel Schumacher, asked him to do Batman Forever because they told Tim Burton, we got to do a lighter movie, and Burton's like, well, I'm not interested in that. So they went to Schumacher, and Schumacher said, yeah. And Schumacher, unlike Burton, actually was a huge Batman fan growing up. So he's like, well, I want to do Batman Year One. And they're like,
right, no. Yeah.
And that's why he signed on, because he thought he would get a chance to do like a Batman movie in the vein of like the Burton stuff, but maybe take it closer to the comics. But then he accepts the job, and they bring him in, and he says, I want to do Batman Year One. And they're like, no, we don't want to do Year One. We want you to do a continuation of the Burton movies, but we want you to do it with a lighter tone. We want you to make it more family friendly. And so, Schumacher is, he's a worker. So he's like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll do it. So he goes in, meets with Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton says, I'm not interested in what you guys are doing. So he passes, and, he gets permission from Tim Burton. Tim Burton doesn't care. By this point, he's moved on from Batman. He's like, do whatever, I don't care. And so then he casts Val Kilmer, and famously has lots of problems with Val Kilmer on set of Batman Forever.
Oh, yeah. Well, Val Kilmer is notoriously difficult to work with, period.
Right. Which is why he hasn't gotten a whole lot of work after in the years since.
And which is why I think that, you never see Val Kilmer work with the same people twice.
Right. I think the one exception would probably be, if it ever happens, but Shane Black and Robert Downey Jr. Because they said if there was to be all of them have said that they would love to do a sequel to Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Yeah, which was a great movie, and so everybody on that. So I think Val Kilmer seems to have mellowed in his older age, which is good because he was famously difficult to work with.
Yeah, but you know what I think it is too? Robert Downey Jr. is a guy, even though, nice guy and everything like that, very friendly, but you know what? He's a guy that's lived, and he's a guy that doesn't take a lot of shit. And I've heard like kind of the same thing about Shane Black, and I just think that they just didn't take a lot of shit from Val Kilmer that other people did, and that's why,
right,
they can work with him.
Right. But even
if you're working, because if you're working with somebody that knows that you're not going to take any shit from them, they tend to act differently. It's like Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando was famous for trying to see how much he could get away with because he didn't like to work.
Yeah. Oh God, the stories of him on the set of Apocalypse Now are legendary.
Right. And some people, let him get away with his shit, and other people didn't.
Right. Yeah.
And from what I heard, when he ran into people that wouldn't take his shit, he fell in line and he went along with the program. But Yeah, but he just wanted to see how much he could get away with.
Right. So, Batman Forever, despite all the problems, was a huge success. Like it far surpassed Batman Returns. Didn't quite do Batman levels, but it got very close.
Yeah.
And so obviously, Warner Brothers right away, they fast-tracked a sequel. And that was Batman and Robin. Now, for the longest time, a lot of people, and myself included, felt that Batman Forever was the better movie, Batman and Robin was the weaker one. But over time, my perception on this has kind of shifted, because I remember as a kid seeing Batman Forever in the theater and loving it. I was like 12 at the time or something like that.
Right.
And I loved the movie when I saw it in the theater at the time. And then, so I was so psyched for Batman and Robin when it came out. And then I went to the theater, saw Batman and Robin. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
And let me tell you, okay, now let me tell people something, because people always get the impression because of course I vigorously defend this movie now, but I was the same as everybody else. I hated this movie when it first came out. I did. And for plenty of years afterwards, I actively disliked Batman and Robin.
Right.
Until I took the advice of a friend of mine who said, this is how you got to look at the movie. It's got nothing to do with the previous three.
Mm-hmm.
It's the 1966 Batman TV series.
It is, yeah.
Once he told me that, and I went back and I looked at the movie, okay, with that mindset, I said to myself, you know something? This ain't that bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I still, I watched it last night. I still don't think it's a good movie, but it's not. Yeah, but I can still appreciate it for that reason. There's still things about it that are good. I never realized this before, but Uma Thurman's performance in this is brilliant.
She's terrific. We go on and on and on about the casting in these superhero movies. And to my mind, they couldn't have picked a better Poison Ivy than Uma Thurman. Especially
for this style that they're doing it in. I saw one review I was reading last night saying she's doing a Mae West by Jessica Rabbit impersonation. And that's the perfect description of what she's doing in this movie.
Yeah, you know what? She falls right into the spirit of what this movie is supposed to be.
Right. Also, more than anyone else, she understands what she's doing. Yeah.
More than anybody else, she gets the material.
In fact, even more than I think Joel Schumacher did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Joel Schumacher was, he had a lot of problems on set dealing with the producers because they're like, we want to make it more like toys and everything. And a lot of actors did not have fun on set. It was just not a good working environment. George Clooney was still filming ER, the TV show at the time. So he was working like 12, 14-hour days. He was going from the set of ER over to the set of Batman and Robin, just nonstop.
George Clooney has said publicly, and this is why he apologized, for the failure of this movie. You can look at him, and in some scenes, there are some scenes where he looks like he just wants to sit down.
Yeah.
If you see some of the scenes where it's him and Alfred, that are talking, Clooney visibly looks tired.
Right.
He wants to, because he was filming, like you said, he would film ER during the day, and then at night he would go film this movie and during the weekends. And he said, that he was exhausted.
Yeah.
Most of the time
yeah. And to Clooney's credit too, anytime someone told him they didn't like this movie, he offered to give them a refund. And he actually gave a lot of people refunds for their money for watching this movie. Yeah. And he took responsibility for this movie nonstop. For years, he was like, you know what, Batman and Robin was my fault. And then, and of course, and also to Joel Schumacher's credit, he also came out and he apologized and he said, it's not George's fault. It's not Chris's fault. It's not Uma's fault. It's not anyone's fault but me. I'm the director. All the blame for the movie falls on my shoulders. But really, the shoulders it falls on are the shoulders of the producers of the movie. Because they're the ones who demanded something that was, very family-friendly, very upbeat and bright, very, very campy in a way, and they wanted something in which they can sell a lot of toys. And that's what Schumacher delivered. In fact, on the set, he was famously credited as saying before each take, remember, people were making a cartoon.
Yeah.
And that kind of set the tone for the whole movie.
They told him this movie has to be toy-rific.
Right, exactly.
That was the phrase That was the actual phrase that he was told. He said, "You got to make this movie toy-rific."
Right, exactly, yeah.
So, and then again, as I was saying before, when I have this discussion with people, and the first thing they came out, well, Joel Schumacher should have had artistic integrity, and he should have refused to make it. He should have made the movie that he wanted to make. I said, yeah, well, okay, it's easy for you to say that, but Hollywood is a business.
Right. And plus, he was under contract already.
Yeah, he was under contract.
So,
yeah.
And so when they told him what he wanted, and he did have creative vision with this movie, he said, you know what? They want me to do this, so I'm going to homage the camp style of the 66 Batman and, like the work of Dick Sprang and all that. And that's what he tried to do. He legitimately was not trying to make a serious Batman movie because everybody said in the studio, that's not what they wanted.
Right, exactly. He gave the studio what they want. They did not want a serious Batman movie.
Right.
And they wanted something that they could sell Happy Meals, they could sell toys, and audiences would come out, smiling and saying that they wanted a Batman movie that people would feel good about when they came out of the movie theater. That's what they wanted. And unfortunately,
I think this movie kind of came out at the wrong time, because if this movie had come out today, I think people would have gotten the joke.
Yeah.
They would have understood what it was trying to be. Because you've had the 66 series is now looked upon more fondly than it was in the 90s. Because in the 90s, people were still kind of they were still kind of reeling from the shock of what the 60s series had done to the impression of comic books in the mainstream media. Because, for years, decades even, every time there was some story about comic books in the newspaper, the headline, I swear to God, every time it started off with Biff, Bang, Zop, comic books, whatever. Every single article. And I'm like,
every single one, yep.
These editors were so freaking lazy. Like, every single one had to reference the Batman TV show sound effects in some way.
And you are 100% correct, my friend. That was it. Because in their mind, that's all comic books was.
Right. In fact, growing up, my dad would see me reading comic books. Like, I don't understand why you're reading that crap. And this is stuff like, we're talking Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns, stuff that, was taught in colleges these days. But my dad's impression of it was Biff, Bang, Zop.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. My father, listen, my father was glad that I loved to read, but he just never understood why he said, well, aren't you a little bit old for that? Unless I was reading a Western comic book. Now, if I was reading Kid Coat Outlaw or Rawhide Kid, yeah, he would say, oh, well, let me look at that. Oh, now all of a sudden you want, oh, let me see that. Or if it was a war comic, like it was sharply, like a Sergeant Rock or something like that.
Right.
He would say, oh, well, let me get a look at that. And he would, and then, but, the stuff with the superheroes, now he would look at me and say, well, aren't you a little bit old for that?
Right, yeah. And it was the same thing with my father and a lot of people's fathers and parents in general, I think. And that was and all this time, like all throughout the 90s, like, comic fans were trying to convince people, like, look, comic books aren't like the 60s Batman series. And so people had developed an aversion to the 60s Batman and the camp style because of that. But now superheroes are completely mainstream.
Well,
all the big tentpole movies are superhero movies. Like, all the big TV shows are superhero TV shows, to the point that you have people complaining that there are too many superhero stuff. So it's totally mainstream now. Superheroes are the new Western or the new detective movie or the new sci-fi movie.
Exactly. Which is what I tell people all the time. I said, listen, if you was a kid, I was growing up during the time of the big Western boom where you couldn't watch anything on TV except for Westerns.
Right.
That was it. If you didn't want to watch a Western, well, then you were just stuck. And then after that, it was the cop and the detective shows that was on there. And that was the big thing. These things go in cycles,
Right.
Now, I don't know what's going to be the next big thing on TV, but for the foreseeable future, it's going to be superheroes. Because that's, like you said, that's the mainstream now. Right.
Well, the thing about superheroes, I think it's a little bit different than, I understand the comparison to the Western and the detective movies, but the thing about superheroes is that unlike the Western, unlike the detective story, it's not really a genre in itself, right? It's more of it's more of a character type that appears in a genre. So, and you've seen the superhero movies evolve. Like originally, it was all just like these origin story movies, and then with the sequels, they didn't really know what to do. But now it's evolved to where they're doing like what Marvel is doing very, very smartly is they're saying, no, these are movies in different genres. So we're doing genre movies that just happen to have superheroes in them.
Oh, right, exactly. Like when we were talking about a couple of episodes ago, we were talking about the Ghost Rider,
right?
Sequel, which was like a grindhouse,
right? Or also a few episodes ago, Hellboy, which was like this pulp fantasy type movie.
Right? Yeah. So you can do different, and even now when they do, okay, you will have a Western. They don't really make a straight Western anymore. They'll make something like Bone Tomahawk,
right?
Which is got horror elements, and that's what they'll do with the Western. They'll throw in like fantasy elements or horror elements or something like that.
Right.
So so we really don't have like really any straight sort of genre anymore. It's kind of everything is like kind of mashed up together. Like recently, I was watching City of Angels, which was set during the 1950s in Los Angeles, and it was about a Hispanic cop, the first Mexican cop, and he was teamed with a Jewish cop, and they were tracking down Nazis, and there was these supernatural demons.
Oh wow!
It was like 4 or 5 different genres all mashed up into one.
Wait, so this is the TV show you're talking about?
Yeah, right. This is a TV show. Matter of fact, it's supposed to be a sequel series to Penny Dreadful.
Right. Yeah. Okay. For a second there, I thought you were talking about the Nicolas Cage movie, and I'm like, wait a minute, I don't remember. I never seen that movie, but I'm like, I don't remember even talking about supernatural demons in that.
Yeah, and actually, when I first started talking about City of Angels, people thought I was talking about the Wayne Rogers detective series from the 1970s. I said, no, I'm not talking about it. Who remembers that except for me?
Well, apparently a few people do.
Yeah, I mean, I was honestly surprised because the show didn't last that long. But yeah, he was playing like a Philip Marlowe type of private eye in 1930s Los Angeles.
Now, this is also so going back to this movie, Batman and Robin. One of the things I'm looking that just kind of struck my eye is this movie actually did turn a profit, which a lot of people maybe don't realize in retrospect. But
again, this movie supposedly, if you listen to people that don't like this movie, this movie was terrible. It didn't make any money. People hated it. Actually, a lot of people did like it when it first came out because a lot of people went to see it.
Right, yeah. But
people forget Arnold Schwarzenegger was what this was a movie that was sold specifically on his star power. George Clooney was at the height of his popularity thanks to ER.
Well, this like George Clooney has said that despite all the problems he had on set, despite how exhausted he was working on it, he does have some fondness for this movie because this movie is what got him into Hollywood.
Yeah. This movie was sold on his star power. Arnold Schwarzenegger was also at the height of his popularity.
Oh yeah,
in this movie. As a matter of fact, just like Jack Nicholson in the first Batman movie, his name was the first one up there above George Clooney's.
Yeah, well, this was the first movie since the original Batman because that had the villain had top billing over the actor who played Batman.
Mm-hmm. So you had a lot of fans of George Clooney and a lot of fans of Arnold Schwarzenegger that went to see the movie just because they were in it.
Yeah, exactly.
And Uma Thurman, of course.
Uma Thurman, yeah, she wasn't very big at this point, but she had some clout to her because she had done Pulp Fiction, which famously.
Exactly right.
Yeah, and so the movie, like right from the start, it really does kind of. Well, I thought it was kind of funny that it sets these two competing tones, right? Because the opening of it, it's like the classic Batman opening, the Warner Brothers. It's like in this darkness type thing. Although the new theme music, which they don't use the Danny Elfman theme anymore for this, what it is a bit more upbeat. But then it transitions into the Batcave and the infamous suiting up sequence.
Oh yeah, with the buttocks and everything.
Yeah. You got to get the butt shots in.
But that's Schumacher having fun.
Yeah. You get the butt shots, you get the crotch shots, you get the nipples, of course, the infamous bat nipples.
What I like about this scene in that it basically sets the tone visually for the relationship that Batman and Robin have.
Yeah.
Because in the previous 3 movies, we've seen the Batmobile is a 2-seater. Now,
Right.
Batman has a partner, but he's got a new Batmobile that only has 1 seat.
Right. Also, this Batmobile doesn't have a canopy.
No. It's completely open. Which again, like so much of this movie makes no sense. But then again, a lot of this movie is just spectacle.
Well, it's also a nod to 66 because 66 famously the Batmobile had no canopy, and it also has red in it, just like the 66 Batmobile.
Yeah.
Which I never picked up on these things before, but after you to your credit, told me that this movie is it's an homage to 66, and then looking back at it now I can see like, oh yeah, look, they got red in the Batmobile, the red highlights and stuff. They got the open canopy. That's got to be a callback to 66.
Oh yeah, and I mean they do the thing with the camera like when it's a scene with the villains, the camera, all of a sudden everything is slanted to one side.
Right. Yeah.
They did a lot in the 66 TV series when it was seen with the villains. It would be askew. The camera angle would be askew. The crazy oversized sets.
Yeah. And also the henchmen, the scene where they have to fight the henchmen in some ridiculous way, that was total 66 callback. Even like the call he gets when he's in the Batmobile and he's racing towards Gotham City, and Commissioner Gordon calls him, and it's an updated version of the old red phone shtick.
Yeah.
Like it's like Commissioner Gordon calls him up, and he even says straight up, "There's a new villain in town. Calls himself Mr. Freeze."
Mr. Freeze, yeah.
That's totally a 66 callback.
Absolutely.
I mean, in any modern Batman story, Commissioner Gordon would never say there's a new villain in town. He would say we've got this criminal or something. We got this suspect or something like that. He would not say villain.
And if you notice, okay, it's Commissioner Gordon, but who is he dressed like?
Right, he's dressed just like Chief O'Hara.
He's dressed just like Chief O'Hara, which to me is like a homage to Chief O'Hara because they don't have him in this movie.
Right.
But if you look, all throughout the movie, now in the previous movies, Commissioner Gordon just wore a suit.
Yeah.
But in this movie, every scene you see him, he's dressed just like Chief O'Hara.
Right. Yeah. And I think this movie actually gives Pat Hingle more to do than any of the other Batman movies because here he gives Poison Ivy the keys to the bat signal, and that's the most he's done in 4 damn movies.
Oh. Well, actually, he had a lot to do in the first movie.
Well, not really. Like he was just kind of like there in all these points, but he didn't really do much. Like when you think about it, like he was at the Axis Chemicals plant. He had made speeches on TV, but he didn't, as a character, he doesn't really do much in any of these movies.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, okay, I'll go with you on that one. I just think that in the first one, he tends to have a little bit more to do. Because like you said, he's at the Axis, chemical plant, and he's actually has a little conflict with the crooked cop.
Right. Well, they hinted stuff with him, but as far as like his impact on the overall story, he doesn't really have any until this movie. No. This is the only time his actions have some impact on the story.
No, I mean, he doesn't have much to do. You know what? He's there because it's Batman and Commissioner Gordon has to be there.
Right. Which is,
in some capacity, but he's not like a character.
Right. Which is one of the failings of all these movies, that they don't take Commissioner Gordon really seriously. They don't. They just treat him as a side. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's there because it's a Batman movie, so you have to have Commissioner Gordon.
Right.
For no other reason. And that, he's the liaison between Batman and the Ray, which cracks me up that they have a scene where Batman's walking around with all these cops is there when they're at the crime scene. And, it's okay for Batman to be walking around a crime scene.
Well, it's so funny to watch this after Batman Returns, because last week we were talking about Batman Returns and how after he stops the Red Triangle gang, like Commissioner Gordon's trying to talk to him and Batman's got like no time for him at all.
Yeah.
And he just completely blows the mayor off. But here, he's going to charity events. He's sitting and talking with the police and everything.
He's hanging out, and he's just again, like the Adam West, 1966
Yeah.
This is a very public Batman.
Yeah,
Nobody freaks out seeing Batman, walking around during the day. They say, oh yeah, well, that's Batman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So there's a total different relationship. And if not for, and I'll talk about him later, but if not for Michael Gough, you'd be totally forgiven for thinking that this is a complete reboot of the series.
He's like really the linking element between this movie and the other three. And what really surprised me in this movie is the depth of feeling in the scenes he has with George Clooney.
Right, yeah.
There's real, they play their scenes together really well. There's real feeling, between the two of them. They got me convinced that, okay, this is Bruce Wayne, that he's gonna raise up from a kid.
Yeah, well, Michael Gough's credit is like he worked with 3 different actors playing Batman. But every time he plays this role, he treats them as if they're the same character every single time. And he makes his performance and his treatment towards Bruce makes you believe that Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer, and George Clooney are all the same guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and also we get the famous opening line, which is Chris O'Donnell reciting Val Kilmer from the last movie, chicks dig the car. And then we get another DC Comics reference here, just like in the last movie, because the last movie, Val Kilmer mentioned how, the circus must be halfway to Metropolis by now. And in this movie, he says, this is why Superman works alone.
Yeah, it's why Superman works alone, yeah. So very obviously, this is in some DC universe where there are other superheroes.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but when I saw that line in Batman Forever, when he said the circus must be halfway to Metropolis by now, I freaked out. I'm like, oh my God, Batman and Superman are in the same world.
Yeah. And he throws it off so casually. I love the way Kilmer just throws it off casually. Yeah, well, it's halfway to Metropolis.
Right, yeah. Now, and that actually does fit better in that movie. In this movie, you're not sure if he's being like there really is a Superman, or if he's just being flippant about the fictional character Superman.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's one of those lines that I think that you could take either way. I prefer to think that there is a Metropolis,
right?
And the Christopher Reeve Superman is over there somewhere, wondering what that crazy bat guy is doing.
Or at this point, the Nicolas Cage Superman, because that's what they were beginning.
The notorious Nicolas Cage Superman.
We're gonna have to do an episode on that documentary one day.
Oh man, that you know what? I'm so glad that train wreck did not come to pass.
Although I don't know, like I do agree with you. It would have been a total train wreck. But after seeing that documentary, The Death of Superman Lives, I'm really curious to see what it would have been like.
Although what I do love is that I watched the Kevin Smith when he did his documentary, and he was talking about when he went in for his meeting, and he was talking about it.
John Peters,
that thing approaches Richard Pryor levels of humor.
Oh God,
he's telling about that meeting and everything like that. Oh, okay, we're gonna have to put that on the list of that we got to get to, because that is a fascinating project. Any way you look at it, I don't care what you think about it. Anyway, it's fascinating just to explore.
Mm-hmm. And now, I think one of the biggest weak points of this movie is Chris O'Donnell. Like his Robin, I never liked his Robin. He's just, the problem is he plays it like a petulant teenager.
Which is Todd. He's not Dick Grayson in the
right. That as well, yeah. But he plays it as like a petulant teenager the entire time when he's like 35.
Yeah, I mean he's a grown man, and he's acting like this really entitled, whiny brat.
Yeah.
And
in both movies, Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, like he's
in both. You know what? They go through issues in this movie that should have been resolved already. The movie is Batman and Robin, not Batman against Robin.
Right, yeah.
Which is what we get from their characterization through the whole thing. They're constantly bickering and fighting and arguing and everything like that, which is not what you want to see Batman and Robin do. You don't want to see him bickering and fighting and carrying on. And like you said, Chris O'Donnell he is clearly too old to be acting like this, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. Like it's one thing if he's like if it's a 15-year-old kid doing this part, then I can understand it, right? You know, you're 15, you got hormones raging and everything. It makes sense for you to like lash out and stuff like that. But he's like 35. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous when you see a guy who's obviously I don't know, he just throws off this whole movie in terms of tone, and when he's on screen, he makes me cringe.
Exactly.
And you know, the way he delivers his stuff. And George Clooney, I love him because he's just standing there with his head cocked to the side and say, "Why are you being a dick?" You know, he's not like, "Why are you being a dick?" You know, and that's the look on his face. Like, you know, really? Come on, man.
And I think this is in part because of how, like, George Clooney, I think, would be able to play a good Batman back in the day under a better script. And under a different kind of direction. But you know, if he's not, you know, working like shooting ER 12 hours to begin with. But in this, the exhaustion shows in his performance too, because he does feel like he's sleepwalking through the whole thing.
I don't know why, for some reason, I have always felt that George Clooney would be a perfect Green Hornet.
Well, that's so funny you mentioned that, because he actually turned down Green Hornet to be in this movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, Batman. Yeah. Well, I guess he figured Batman was more, but I can see him. You know what? I can't see him as Batman. Much as I don't knock his performance in this movie, because considering, as we have said, and I will continue to say, considering a man working with the level of exhaustion that he was there, he turns in a pretty damn good job.
He does the best he can with what he's given. Yeah. And this under the circumstances he was placed under. And you know what? For me, before Robert Downey Jr. came along, George Clooney was my ideal pick for Tony Stark.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see him being Tony Stark.
Yeah, I mean, he's got that whole, like, he's not as sarcastic and as quick, but that's really something that Downey brought to Tony Stark. But if you're talking like the comic book Tony Stark, it's George Clooney all the way.
Yeah, George Clooney could have played it with no problem. Like you said, I don't think he wouldn't have played it as sarcastic.
Right.
Because let's face it, nobody does sarcastic like Robert Downey Jr.
No. But Robert Downey basically invented that trait for Tony Stark. Like, Tony Stark was always kind of like dry and witty, but he wasn't as sarcastic and snarky as Downey is.
Yeah, I mean, he played that role so well that I believe you know what, they're going to have to give it at least another decade before they can, if they do another Iron Man movie with somebody else playing Tony, because, you know, he's like, you know, Christopher Reeve. You know, you think of Superman, you think, oh, well, Christopher Reeve. You know, you think of him. You think of Iron Man, well, oh, Robert Downey Jr. You know?
Yeah.
And you really can't see anybody else in that role.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, if this movie has any weak point at all, Alicia Silverstone comes off better in this movie. She does,
yeah, and she has like nothing to do. She has like nothing to do in the movie.
She had nothing to do, but she comes off better than Chris O'Donnell.
Right, she's supposed to be like, you know, I feel so bad for her because she was 18 when she made this movie, and the press was vicious towards her.
Well, she got massacred.
Like, she gained a few pounds on set, and you know, they had trouble fitting into the costume, and these fucking reporters, they're writing stories about how she's fat girl. I'm like, she's an 18-year-old girl, for fuck's sake. What the hell are you doing?
Listen, they must have been looking at a different Alicia Silverstone than I was, because to me, I saw nothing wrong with her in that.
No, she looks great. Well, apparently there's a lot of the footage from when she put on weight was cut, so we don't really know. But yeah, but she does look good in this movie, and you know, and Joel Schumacher, again, to his credit, he went and he defended her. Like, he's like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? She's an 18-year-old girl. She ate a fucking what? You're writing these stories insulting her because what? She ate a fucking pizza? Who gives a shit?
Seriously. All the stuff that you could be writing about this movie, and you're going to pick on her for that bullshit.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, an 18-year-old girl. I got to stress that. I can't stress that enough. 18-year-old girl, and your body shaming her. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Exactly. And then we wonder what's wrong with this society.
Yeah. Oh God, that pissed me off when I read about that.
Yeah,
because I was when this movie came out, I wasn't old enough to the point where I was paying attention to like all the Hollywood gossip and all that kind of stuff. But looking back on it now and reading about it, like that's just such a shitty thing to do.
Exactly.
Like,
very, very poor journalism.
Yeah.
And know what? And I feel embarrassed for calling it journalism because that's not what it is.
You know what? All this, this is a bit of a tangent, but in the same, all this celebrity gossip bullshit. Like, I would love to just take all of those people and shoot them in a cannon right into the sun because they're just fucking scum of humanity.
I don't, okay. I'm not gonna lie. I love a good bit of gossip as much as the next person. But you know what? I also do believe that there's some lines that shouldn't be crossed.
Yeah.
And you don't have to mention everything. And if you call yourself a journalist, you're not supposed to let your personal feelings come into what you write.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of things that when I do movie reviews, there's one thing that I pride myself on, that I take pride in myself in, is that I can be objective.
Right.
I may not like something, but I can be objective about it, and I can examine it for what it is and say to you, okay, this is why you should watch this, even though I don't particularly care for it, but this is why it's of value. This is why it's of worth.
We've covered movies we've covered movies like that here on this show where, even though, we may not personally like it, we still try to find things about it that are good. We still try and approach them objectively.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm the sort of person, because I'm at the time of my life where, you know what? I don't have the energy or time to expend to hate something that much. I would rather spend my time recommending you something and saying, go watch this than spend 2 hours on here wasting your time and my time tearing something down for no reason at all, simply for the fact that I feel like I should be tearing it down. Which is what, and I'm gonna be very blunt about this. I've heard a lot of movie podcasts that are like that. That the hosts do nothing but spend 2, 3, 4 hours ruthlessly tearing apart a movie. Why? Why is your life really that petty that this is all you have to do?
There was an article the other day I saw on Twitter from What Culture, which is a site I used, full disclosure, I used to write for, and it was like 10 actors that need to stop doing the same thing, and I'm like, and they're bringing up people like Jason Statham and The Rock and all these other actors, and I'm just like, what they do works. Like, that's why they keep doing it. Like, why do you got to tear everything down?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why they do what they do, because it works and it's successful, and they make, what? That's like saying to Donnie Yen, well, you know what? You should stop making martial arts movies. Why? Yeah. That's his thing. He makes martial arts movies.
Yeah.
If you're an action star, well, you make action movies. Yeah, maybe once in a while you might stretch yourself and you do something else. And then what happens? Nobody goes to see it.
Exactly.
So you know what? Well, now you go back to making action movies. And then these same people that you were just talking about, they say, well, he has no range, he's afraid to stretch himself. Well, no, he's not, or she is not afraid to stretch themselves. It's just that nobody wants to see them do anything else.
Well, I mean, what these people forget is that, actors and directors, they gotta eat too. They gotta make a living. So they take on projects just for the paycheck, just like you go punch in a clock and wherever you work every day just for the paycheck. I mean, you're not going to work in some office because that's your artistic calling.
Thank you. Which is why and really this drives me totally apeshit when people talk about any actor and they say, well, they just did that just for the money. Well, of course they did.
Yeah. Well, I remember you posted something up the other day about, what's the worst creative advice you ever received? And I said the worst creative advice I ever received was, write only what you want to write and don't pay attention to the market. Well, you don't pay attention to the market, you don't make any money, is what I quickly found. And so then I changed my approach and I started writing stuff that had an intersection between what I wanted to do and what the audience wanted. And then, look, I started making money because of that.
And you know what? You can go on Facebook, for all of you listening, you go on Facebook right now. go to any writers group that's on there, and you know what you find a whole bunch of? You find a whole bunch of people who are writing what they want to write, but they're also complaining that nobody is reading.
Oh, we know lots of people like that. They're always complaining about how they're not making any money. And I've talked to these people. I'm like, well, have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? No, I don't want to do that. Well, then you're not going to make money. I mean,
you're not going to make money. Yeah, you're not going to make money. It's just that simple.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing if you want to do it as a hobby, right? You want to just do it as a hobby and, you know, write what you, then fine, go ahead. But then don't complain that you're not making a living as a writer then, if you don't want to do the stuff that you have to do.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? You do what you have to do until you get to the point where you can, which is why a lot of people in Hollywood, they do, okay, and I hear this all the time. Well, I don't understand why they made this movie. I don't understand why they made the movie. Well, they made that movie for a variety of reasons. They made it for one, to make money to support themselves so they can get a project that they want, or they're doing it as a favor to somebody who's going to give them a favor later on and put them in a better movie.
Right.
You know, I've heard plenty of actors say that, yeah, they was in Alec Baldwin. One of the best shows I ever saw was Inside the Actor Studio, and they interviewed him. And a person asked him, well, came right out, well, you've been in a lot of shitty movies. You know, why were you in those movies? And Alec Baldwin said, well, a variety of reasons. One of the reasons that you know, it may be filmed in a country that you've always wanted to go see. So you go do the job. Yeah, you know it's a shitty movie, but you get to see the country on the studio's dime.
Right. Or you want to work with a certain actor or a certain director, even if the script is shit. Like, I mean, come on. If they had a movie with, if they asked me to be in a movie with Robert Downey Jr. and it was, say, like, I don't know, like a remake of Ishtar, or, you know, or no, what's that? Breaking. If it was a remake of Breaking 2, I would. Then they asked me, "Do you want to be in this movie?" I'd say no, and they said Robert Downey Jr. I'm like, "Well, fuck yes, I'm going to be in that movie, though."
Well, of course, yeah, naturally, you know,
because I want to hang out on set with Robert Downey Jr. Of course.
And also, you know, okay, you're an actor, you're a director, right? This is your job. You work.
Yeah.
You know, you're not like you have a carpenter, you have a plumber, you have an electrician. They don't turn down certain jobs because they're not artistically inclined to do that. They do it because that's what they do. That's their job.
Right. And you know what? One movie you make may have to be your income, your salary for the next 2 or 3 years, because you don't know when the next project is coming. So you're gonna.
Yeah, and also, if you're a working actor, you have other people whose salary you're paying.
Right.
You know, you've got your publicist, you've got your agent, you've got your manager, you've got, you got a whole bunch of people that, you have to pay.
Right, yeah. And I was, I've been listening to Zach Braff and Donald Faison's podcast, Fake Doctors, Real Friends, where they're going back and they're re-examining all the episodes of Scrubs. And, one of the things that was kind of revealing listening to it is, Donald Faison talking about being a working actor and saying like, well, I took this because I needed the money. And they were talking about the anxiety of like at the end of the first season, like, are we going to get picked up? Are we going to get renewed? Because, we're counting on this money coming in. And you realize, whoa, yeah, these guys have a pretty good lifestyle, but they're not so rich where they can just stop working.
Thank you. This is what I'm saying. People, hear about these actors making these fabulous sums of money and they think, oh, yeah, well, they're living high off the hog and everything like that. Yeah, well, you know what? Some of them are, but most of them, 90% of them aren't.
Yeah, they're just working actors.
Right, exactly. They work, which is why you see them working all the time when, okay, this TV series, okay, that gets canceled. 2 months later, you see them on another TV series.
Right.
Because they got to keep working because the bills are still coming in.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And so yeah. It's funny. We've ranted about so much in this episode, except the movie that everybody probably thought we were going to rant about.
Well, no, because something. That's because, like I said earlier, the only problem I have with this movie is Chris O'Donnell's performance. His performance to me, like I said, it's very cringeworthy when he's on screen. I love the set design of this movie because, it's supposed to be like a live action cartoon. and they use an obscene amount of neon in this. And
Oh
there's
yeah.
And there's the one scene where Poison Ivy goes into this place where everybody is wearing like day glow colors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very colorful scene. Vivica Fox, I would just like to mention something.
I was glad. I was going to bring her up as well. I completely forgot she was in this movie.
I completely forgot she was in. Much as I forgot that. What's her name? She was in Batman Forever. What's her name?
Drew Barrymore.
Yeah, you know what? I completely forget her and Debbie Mazar are in that movie until I actually see the movie. Just like I forget that Vivica Fox is in there. Let me just say something as a black person. He would not have Mr. Freeze would definitely not have a black girlfriend because black people don't like the cold. They don't like the cold.
Do you know what her character's name is in this movie?
No.
Ms. B. Haven.
Ms. B. Haven, really?
Just like that, Ms. B. Haven. So B is her first name, Haven is her last name.
But for somebody who only has I think she's only had 30 seconds of screen time.
Yeah. Well, that's a memorable 30 seconds. I'm just like, damn, Freeze, how are you turning that down?
She turns and walks away. I said, okay, I done got my, okay. I definitely got my money's worth. Coolio has a cameo in this movie.
Right, yeah. We last saw in Daredevil.
During the motorcycle racing scene.
Right, yeah.
He's in this one. R. Kelly did a song for this movie called Gotham City. And if you listen to it, you will realize that R. Kelly does not know anything about Batman or Gotham City. He sings about Gotham City being a city of hope and peace and love and justice. I said, apparently R. Kelly has never read a Batman comic book.
Well, he was too busy. He was too busy pissing on girls. That's why.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
What else is memorable?
John Glover. John Glover is in this.
Oh, yeah, as
Jason Woodrow, the Floronic Man.
Yeah, the Floronic Man. For those of you who are familiar with,
like Uma Thurman, he gets that he's in a campy movie.
Yeah, he gets it. Like I said, you know what? You watch these movies, and you can tell who gets it and who doesn't.
Yeah,
like as opposed to something like, okay, now here's where we can find a movie that we can really knock, that we go back to every time a movie can knock. Batman Forever.
Right.
Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey did not get it.
No.
They did not understand at all the type of movie that they were in or what they were supposed to be doing. They didn't get it. They thought, which really surprised me, Jim Carrey more than Tommy Lee Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would expect him not to get what type of movie he in. But Jim Carrey is kind of hip. I would have thought that he would have got it.
Right, yeah. And, Tommy Lee Jones was just like, I don't know. I don't know if it was just jealousy at all the attention Jim Carrey was getting or what, but he went nuts in his performance.
Yeah. What else I want? Oh, something I wanted to point out to people. And I have seen him in person from a distance, and I tell people this all the time. There's a scene where after Batman has captured Mr. Freeze and they bring him to jail, I presume it's Arkham Asylum. Yeah, right, it is Arkham Asylum.
It's Arkham Asylum.
And they bring him there, and he's taken to the cell, and the two guards, they take him out. Once they get him out of that little refrigerator that they have him in, you can see how short Arnold Schwarzenegger really is, because the two guards are played by Jesse Ventura and Rolf Mueller.
Oh, okay.
Rolf Mueller, who was in the Conan TV series, and who was a friend of, Arnold, and of course, the bodybuilder wrestler Jesse Ventura. But when you watch this movie, look at how short Arnold Schwarzenegger is compared to them. And you know what?
I never noticed that, but now that you mention it, I'm remembering it. Yeah.
Yeah. And you get an idea of how Arnold Schwarzenegger really isn't that tall. He's not as tall as you might think he is. Yeah.
That is really surprising.
Because they actually tower over him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if they did that deliberately to show how small Freeze when he's not in that armored suit.
Mm-hmm.
Which also I have a problem with that armored suit because, as far as I know, diamonds in and of themselves are not a power source. So,
like the story in this movie makes no sense. I mean, you've got Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze teaming up to freeze the world, which is what Mr. Freeze wants, and then for Poison Ivy to recreate it, and their goals are in total opposition to each other.
it makes, first of all, it makes no sense why Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy would team up.
Right.
At all. You know, like you said, it's completely. And Mr. Freeze is going around stealing these diamonds because that's what powers his armored suit. And like I said, wait a minute, diamonds are not a power source. But he's like picking them up by the handful and dropping them in the suit. And then he said, oh, because I'm running low on power. Wait a minute, what are you talking about? If you were stealing uranium or vibranium or something like that, okay, I can understand that. You know, well, I need uranium or vibranium, you know. But diamonds? And he's picking up handfuls of the shit. He's just dropping them in the suit. And he says, okay, I'm back up the foot. And there's a little gauge that goes around.
Yeah.
I said, what?
It makes no sense.
Oh, it makes no sense at all. But to give him his credit, Arnold Schwarzenegger is having the time of his life.
Oh, he's eating up, like, he's another guy who gets what kind of movie he's in.
Yeah.
You know, all the villains understand what kind of movie they're making.
Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger is just having the time because this gives him something different to do.
You know what? At the time I hated him, but now looking back on it, his ice puns are kind of endearing.
Oh, he makes every corny ice pun. He must have looked at every episode of Otto Preminger as Mr. Freeze, because that's what he's doing. He's doing Otto Preminger.
He's like the ultimate dad joker.
Yeah, and he's making every bad ice pun joke imaginable.
Yeah, I'm sitting there, I'm taking notes because, you know, and a bit of them to be a dad myself, and I'm just like, I got to remember to use this on my kid. I got to make note of some of the bad dad jokes.
Oh man, but you know what? I enjoy it. And I like the scene again. George Clooney sells what he's doing when he's doing it. Mm-hmm. I give him credit for that. It's the scene at the end of the movie where they're at that whacked out observatory. I have no idea how people get up to this observatory.
It's this observatory. It's like a round building or something being held up by like a giant Greek statue.
Yeah.
And it's like, who the fuck designs this shit?
Who designed this thing? And it looks twice as tall as the Statue of Liberty. And like you said, it's this building. And I'm saying, wait a minute, how do people get up there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Much less, you know, the people that's got to work there, much less, you know, visitors and stuff like that, because they have a whole reception that's at the thing. But anyway, Batman has blown up, you know, the observatory, and he's unfrozen Gotham City and everything like that. And he goes over to Mr. Freeze, who's laying there, and he actually talks to him.
Yeah.
And he explains to him how he's been tricked by Poison Ivy. He shows her the thing. And he says, okay, listen, you were once a doctor, though. He said,
one thing, though, I thought about when I was watching that, it's like, this was also the thing. This was also a thing we talked about in Batman 66. Where was the freaking camera that recorded Poison Ivy saying that?
Bingo. Exactly. Where was the camera at? Did he have a bat drone flying around or something?
Yeah, because he was being held up by the vines or whatever at that point.
He was being held up by the vines, exactly. So how did he take the thing? Mm-hmm. But he actually talks to him and he explains to him, he says, there's a man that's dying, you know, I will do what I can. I'll talk to Bruce Wayne and I'll get you the research facilities that you need to, you know, save your wife, but help me save another life. And I said, you know something, that's what a hero does.
Right, yeah, yeah.
You know, which is why I like that scene, because, he just talks to him. And Mr. Freeze says, yeah, he gives him the two. And of course, he makes the ultimate bad doctor joke. He just
take two of these, call me in the morning.
Oh, I say he just had to go there.
Yeah.
And you know what? I can see them fighting on the set about it. Joel Schumacher say, listen, Arnold, you can't do it. I'm going to say it. I have to do it. I have to. I cannot get this far and not do it. Oh man, yeah, I can see him doing that.
And it's so funny when we think about, like, because if you're talking about Mr. Freeze, like a serious Mr. Freeze, like they did in the Batman animated series, like Arnold Schwarzenegger is the last person you would ever consider for Mr. Freeze. And, some of the other people were considered, Patrick Stewart was one of the guys that they were thinking about.
Yeah,
And
Patrick Stewart.
He would have been amazing in that serious role. But when you're talking about the bad joke guy, and also I love that thing that he mentions that, when he's given the rundown of Mr. Freeze, and he's like, Victor Freeze, he was a molecular Nobel Prize winning biologist and a two-time Olympic decathlete.
Yeah. From what I heard, Patrick Stewart was like this close to getting the role, but then I also heard that Arnold Schwarzenegger, he really wanted to do it.
Well, also Schumacher said that he wanted Freeze to be like someone. He wanted someone like buff because he wanted to be like this image of him being like chiseled out of ice, and that's why. So that's why he was looking at Schwarzenegger. He was also looking at Stallone at one point, I think, as well, and some other guys too, some other big guys they were looking at. But yeah, and it's just, his performance is just so ridiculous. Like when he's directing his henchmen in singing "I'm Mr. White Christmas."
Oh, yeah. And the poor guys are freezing their ass off.
Yeah.
And he says, sing, and they look at him and say, man, screw you.
Yeah. Oh, and then, you know what? Also, Vivica Fox, how the hell is she not freezing her ass off in that outfit?
Well, see, this is what I'm saying. Now, see, I knew we was in the realm of science fiction when I said, because see, black people, first of all, black people don't like cold.
You got a guy walking around in a giant ice suit, but the thing that takes you out of the movie is a black woman in the cold.
Yes, absolutely. Now see, okay, you've ruined my suspension of, but yeah, there's some things I can take. Yeah, I can take the guy in the giant ice suit powered by diamonds. I could take you driving the Batmobile over the arms of statues and jumping them over buildings. Hey, listen, I'll go with it. A black woman walking around in
lingerie,
a freezer with, wearing nothing but lingerie, totally unbelievable. I'm sorry. I can't go there.
And not noticing the cold at all. All these other guys are wearing like these parkas and shit, and they're shivering. And she's completely fine. Yeah, and she's completely fine.
Yeah, she's just strutting around like,
Well, something else, too. I don't understand why she even works for him. Because it's clear that he's not having sex with her.
Yeah, they never explain that. No, she just...
I'm like, why did you even hire her? It's like, okay, all right. Okay, Ms. Haven, I'm going to hire you to be my henchwoman. Okay, what do I got to do? Do you want me to have sex with you? No. But I want you to walk around in lingerie all the time.
And make advances and suggestive sexual references that I will completely ignore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So like you said, it's obvious that he's not doing anything with her.
Right, yeah. So I have no reason, and she looks great, not seeing her in this movie. But I have no reason why there's no reason for her to be in this movie.
Like I said, but then again, she is only in the movie for 30 seconds. So,
right, yeah.
So I can be forgiven for forgetting that Vivica Fox is in this movie until I see it. And then I see it. I said, oh, okay, now I know why. And then when she turns and walks away from Mr. I said, okay, now I know why she's in this movie.
Yeah. Something else, too, I picked up on this last time is Woodrow, when he's doing the bidding war, and he has that mystery bidder on the phone, right? And that's the guy who ends up buying Bane. You know what I was thinking this time? Do you think that might have been a setup for Ra's al Ghul in a possible sequel?
I would not be surprised if that was the intention.
Because otherwise, like, why is he talking to this mystery guy on the phone that he sells Bane to? And he tells the guy later, yes, we've gotten your money. We're going to ship him out tomorrow. And it's like, why would you have this mystery phone bidder?
Yeah,
if it's not supposed to be a setup for something later on down the line.
Exactly. They make too much out of it for it not to be something. Right,
because there's no payoff to that in this movie at all.
I get what you mean, yeah. But then if they do another one after this, then they can refer back to that.
Also, you know what? how the hell did they restrain Bane again? Because he broke free during the bidding. And then later, Woodrew's like, yes, we've got your money. We're making adjustments to him. It's like, how did you restrain him again?
In the context of this movie, Bane makes absolutely no sense.
No.
He is nothing more than just a plot device. He's there to serve the needs of the plot.
Oh, God. I like Bane as a character. Like, a lot of people bitch about the Nightfall comics and everything, but Bane is legitimately a good character. He's a really interesting guy. He's a really intelligent villain. Like, he deduced Batman's secret identity. He's Batman. He's more than a match for Batman, both intellectually and physically, which is not a lot that most villains could say.
Well, he's his mirror image. He more than anybody else is the anti-Batman.
Yeah.
If done right. But unfortunately, I don't think that in this movie, he's more like the Hulk in this movie than Bane.
Just like this monosyllabic henchman, like bomb.
Yeah. So I don't think that we have seen the definitive Bane on screen.
No, they came close in Dark Knight Rises, but then again, they turned him into like just a henchman in that movie as well.
Man, I'm sorry. Once he started talking, and I know we've had this argument before, he sounded like Sean Connery on a 3-day bender. I couldn't take him seriously once I heard that. If I could tell Tom Hardy, and if I ever meet him, I'm going to ask him, why did you decide on that voice?
Of course.
Yeah. Why did you decide on that voice? What was your artistic process to get to that voice?
I want to know because both him and Christian Bale have terrible voices in these movies. I'm like, I want to sit down with Christopher Nolan and like, look, we got to talk about the voices that you direct these actors to use.
Yeah. I mean, I have no idea what he was thinking of. They would have did better to have dubbed Batman's voice with Kevin Conroy.
Yeah.
Which is what I've always said that they should have did. Mm. They should have went back. Somebody should have had but then he's Christopher Nolan, so who's going to tell him that he made a mistake?
Right.
Somebody should have had the balls to tell him, listen, that voice doesn't work. We're going to have to do something.
Well, speaking of voice, actually, I can't remember Kilmer's performance because it's been so long since I've seen Batman Forever, but I think that since Adam West, George Clooney is really the first actor who didn't use a different voice as Batman.
No, he doesn't.
Did Val Kilmer use a different voice? I can't really remember.
Val Kilmer, he used a different voice. He just like deepened his voice.
Okay.
He just deepened it.
But it wasn't it wasn't like a Kevin Conroy or Michael Keaton-esque performance, though.
No. It wasn't like he did like a completely different voice. He used it. It was his voice, but he deepened it.
Right.
But George Clooney, he just throws that out the window. Like I said, he goes the Adam West route where there's really no difference between Batman and Bruce Wayne.
They apparently did some post-production work, like audio work, like lowering his voice as Batman, but you can't tell.
Oh, okay.
Like, I could not tell at all in this movie because he sounds exactly the same to me.
Yeah.
Maybe that says more about my bad hearing than anything else, but yeah, I could not tell.
Oh, no, I watched it I'm like you. I watched this movie last night, and there's no difference between his voice. Mm-hmm. It's like, he makes no effort at all to differentiate between, unlike, Val Kilmer and, of course, Michael Keaton, who played Batman and Bruce Wayne as two separate characters.
Right, yeah. He doesn't do that at all in this movie.
Yeah, Clooney doesn't do that.
And
part of it is probably because he was just too tired to put in the work to do that, really.
Well, I mean, there's not a whole lot of Bruce Wayne stuff. This is I think this might be the least Bruce Wayne Batman movie of all the Batman movies. Because there's almost nothing involving Bruce Wayne in this movie. Like, even like his love interest, you've got Julie Madison there, also a character from the comics, who you could delete her scenes completely and you would never notice anything's missing.
Yeah. And she's played by what? Some supermodel?
Elle Macpherson.
Who?
Elle Macpherson is her name.
Oh, okay, well, whatever.
And she's supposed to be like his fiance or something in this.
Yeah, because they go to the observatory and he's there for some kind of, social function, and that's when Poison Ivy shows up. And I believe he announces that they're engaged or something like that.
Yeah. Something like that.
Announces engaged.
It's funny. They asked the cast like what things they'd want to take from the set, what props or something like that, or what they wanted to take home from the set, and all of them had like Schwarzenegger wanted like the armor. Chris O'Donnell, I think, Uma Thurman said she wanted Ivy's like floral throne. Elle McPherson just said she wanted a cap or something with the movie's logo. And George Clooney said he wanted Elle McPherson.
I hear that. I hear that. But for all the screen time that she has in this movie, and for, like you said, for somebody that's supposed to be his love interest, there's really none of that in the movie.
No, not at all.
She's just like an, see, again, just like Commissioner Gordon, she's just there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so especially when you consider that a large part of the plot of this movie is concerned around the artificial feelings that Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson have for Poison Ivy. She's used some kind of weird plant extract to make them fall in love with her. So why would you even introduce that Bruce Wayne has a fiance if you're not going to do more with that?
Well, apparently there was a cut scene where Poison Ivy kills her.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, but there was cut because Joe Schumacher felt it didn't fit the tone of the film.
I know that there was a scene that they cut out that because the Alicia Silverstone character, she's introduced as Alfred's niece,
right?
And there's a scene also that was cut out where it's kind of intimated that he's actually his daughter.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, where she says, "Oh well, Alfred." She says something like, "Well, Alfred's really not my uncle. He just knew my mother when he was in Metropolis." She mentions Metropolis.
Oh, okay.
She says, "Yeah, Alfred knew my mother in Metropolis, and they were good friends." And blah blah blah. But
well, what? That also is another thing that kind of shows that what is it? Here's something. I'm gonna come back to this part later because there's an interesting little factoid I just found out about this movie. But
okay.
What was I? Something about? I was gonna say something about Batgirl, and I just completely lost my train of thought. But the Metropolis thing. That's what I wanted. Like that kind of shows that Schumacher is a fan because Tim Burton never would have thrown in any of these Superman references.
No. He
could have made a dozen Batman movies. He never would have had a reference to any other DC character.
No.
And, in total, out of a dozen movies, Batman would probably have like an hour of screen time.
Yeah, well, that's because he actually wasn't interested in Batman.
No. He just wants to make movies about the villains, really.
I mean, much less, the larger universe with other, superheroes in it. As a matter of fact, from his movies, you get the feel that Batman's like the only superhero that's on that world. That Tim Burton universe that it's just Batman and that's it.
Yeah, definitely. But Schumacher does have like these little fanboy moments. Like he brings in, he name drops Superman. He didn't have to bring in the Floronic Man, but he did. He put the Floronic Man in the movie. Also, here's an interesting little factoid. So Coolio appears in this movie. Do you know what his character's name was?
No.
Jonathan Crane.
Oh, the Scarecrow.
Yeah, he said that he was going to play the Scarecrow in the sequel.
Now that's the first time I've ever heard that.
Yeah, same here. I just scrolling and it says Coolio appears the cameo as Jonathan Crane, later stating he was to reprise the role as Scarecrow in the sequel, which at first it was called Batman Unchained, later it was called Batman Triumphant. But yeah, he was.
Now that I've heard, I've heard that the next movie was supposed to be called Batman Triumphant,
and it was supposed to be the villains were supposed to be Scarecrow and Harley Quinn, who would have been the Joker's daughter, actually. And Jack Nicholson had actually agreed to come back as the Joker in a fear sequence that Batman experiences when he's exposed to the Scarecrow's fear gas.
That's what I've heard, that he was going to come back as and it was supposed to be like a dream sequence or something like that.
Yeah.
Where Batman is exposed to the Scarecrow's fear toxin,
Mm-hmm.
and that I've heard.
Yeah. And apparently the scene when you see their the costumes of Riddler and Two-Face in Arkham Asylum, there was apparently Schumacher apparently also wanted to film a scene with Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze escaping, while other famous Batman villains are in their cells watching them escape. So I kind of have like some villain cameos in there, which would have been a cool little thing to happen there.
Absolutely. But again, like you said, that shows that Schumacher knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
When people talk about, oh, well, he doesn't understand Batman. Schumacher understood Batman a lot more than people gave him credit for understanding.
Right.
He understood, the conventions of a superhero world and a superhero universe. And when you look at this is a larger than life world, which is why we were talking earlier on about, Gotham Observatory and, how did people get up there and everything. Well, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, who puts the air in the tires on the Batmobile?
Right.
Who cares? This is a comic book world. This is a comic book, the thing that we're dealing with. So some of these things don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
In a very, and I know that sounds weird. When I say that to people, they say, well, what do you mean it doesn't matter? Oh, no. What do you mean it doesn't matter? It doesn't make sense. Well, it doesn't make sense that an American city like Gotham City looks like something out of 1930s German expressionistic movie.
No.
That doesn't make any sense either. It doesn't make sense that Wayne Manor looks like something that should be in Transylvania. That doesn't make any sense either. But this is the universe that this is set in.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it is what it is.
There's one fan theory about this movie that Bruce Wayne ended up in debt and his identity was discovered as Batman. So what he did was he licensed out the Batman rights to a movie studio, and this is the movie they made.
I've never heard that before. That's cool. I like that.
And I got to talk about the Bat credit card.
Oh yeah, once again, I love that when he just flashes the Bat credit card. I said, wait a minute.
Expiration date forever.
Wait a minute. What did he do? Did he go to American Express and he said, listen, I need for you guys to make me up a special credit card. This Batman that will last forever. There is a whole movie behind the Bat credit card.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that that is the one item Adam West never had in his utility belt.
No, that's the one thing he never had. George Clooney got that over him. He's got.
Oh, and speaking of the ties to the '60s TV show, when I first saw this movie, the moment I gave up on it was when they get knocked down on the ice. They look at each other and they tap their heels and ice skates pop out.
Exactly.
And then they start playing hockey with his henchmen. At that point, I'm just like, forget it. I'm done.
Yeah. That's it. You know what? All they needed at that point was the pow and the blam and the splat across the screen. That's all really
the only thing missing. Yeah.
That's the only thing missing. And actually, that first 20 minutes, that whole sequence there where they leave the Batcave and they go fight with Mr. Freeze, they fight with the henchmen, and Batman is driving the Batmobile on the arms of these huge honking statues and everything like that.
And they're air surfing.
Yeah, they go up in the rocket, it blows up, and that 20 minutes sets the whole tone for the whole rest of the movie. Yeah. If you're not going to go with that first 20 minutes, turn off the movie.
Not to mention all the ice puns. I think Schwarzenegger crams as many ice puns as possible in those first 20 minutes.
Yeah, that whole sequence right there sets the tone for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
If you can't handle what you just saw just then, turn it off after the air surfing.
Yeah. What else do I want to talk about? Alicia Silverstone as Barbara Wilson, Batgirl. So here's the thing I don't get. She's at Oxbridge, a combination of Oxford and Cambridge.
And Cambridge, yes.
And she's a computer science student. So presumably she would have some computer skills, she would be able to, break Alfred's encryption on his and his hard drive or whatever.
Right.
But instead, she does the password guessing thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why the hell did you make her a computer science expert if you're not going to use that in the movie?
Yeah, if she just couldn't just simply crack into,
And that would have made so much more sense than her guessing the password and again, this, which we've talked about before, this Hollywood thing that, you can't fault this movie. All movies do this, of where people just have like a very simple password.
Yeah. I mean, of course, Alfred is going to have, and then after she hacks into it, or well, not really hacks, but she guesses it. Oh, well, it's the nickname of my mother. Okay, she gets it. And she goes down to the Batcave, and then this program opens up, and it's Alfred, and he said, well, I figured that you was going to get into the disc anyway, so I made it. Well, then why didn't you just tell her, Alfred?
Yeah.
Why are you wasting all this time on this bullshit? I knew you was going to get into it anyway. So when you gave her the disc, why didn't you just tell her, listen, the password is your mother's nickname?
Not only that, but, he makes this whole thing about when she arrives and she sees Dick's motorcycle and Dick says, oh, well, maybe I'll take you riding sometime. And Alfred's like, no, you won't. And then he's like, oh, by the way, here's a bat suit so you can run into danger untrained and fight supervillains.
And again, we see this thing, and I've spoken about this before, this convention that we have in some of these superhero movies, where that apparently all you have to do is just put on a costume, and without any training at all, you can go out and fight supervillains, and you know martial arts, and you're able to shoot up, these lines and scale buildings and everything with no problem at all.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing with Robin too, because that happens in Batman Forever, right?
Yeah.
He just suddenly walks down the steps in costume, and Batman's like, what are you doing? And then Alfred's like, oh, I made him a suit.
But at least he's an acrobat. At least
he's an acrobat. Yeah, but still, like, it's just like, you're not, like, the real Batman is probably watching these movies and being like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? He's
exactly.
Kids in danger.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but again, Batgirl is somebody that's put into the plot strictly so that one, I guess I figured out why they had Vivica Fox in there. They had Vivica Fox in there because there are only two black characters that I noticed that's in the whole movie. It's her and one of the women that works at the observatory.
Oh, so three then, because it's Coolio as well.
And Coolio, right. That's it. That's three black people. But there are no major female characters except for Poison Ivy. So they needed a good character and they needed a bad female character. So that's why we have Batgirl.
Which is kind of weird that they didn't elevate Elle McPherson's character at all, like Julie Madison.
This goes back to what I said. Since you had the plot with Poison Ivy making Bruce fall in love with her, you could have had beefed up her role with Bruce fall in love with this other woman, and she's upset. But then, see, that would have made the movie too adult.
Right. It would have made a lot more sense too, and it would have worked a lot better than the whole Batman-Robin rivalry thing.
Yeah, because exactly, it's artificially constructed conflict between our two main characters that we shouldn't have had.
Well, you know the real reason why they've got Batgirl in this movie is for an excuse to make another toy.
Well, of course.
That's the only reason. Because that's also why they wear those bat suits at the end with the silver in them, was just because that gives them a choice to make an excuse to make another toy.
Yeah. I mean, they show up with these other vehicles out of nowhere. Batman, I don't know. It's just like we were talking about that. He keeps the bat boat, from, what was it, Batman Returns, that goes through the sewer.
Yeah, the bat ski boat.
Yeah, the bat ski boat. Well, why does Batman have, he's Batman. So, I guess he's got an ice boat.
Well, the thing I thought was funny is that, Alfred made a Batgirl costume for Barbara, and then apparently he made a special ice suit for her as well.
Yeah, thank you. That Alfred, I tell you, that's a hell. And
he also, like the last movie too, he made Robin's, rubber bat suit. Like, where the hell did Alfred know how to find out how to vulcanize rubber and shit?
The only thing that I can figure is that Alfred must have went to the same costume. Him and Reed Richards must have went to the same school because they got this thing for costume design that apparently nobody knew about.
Yeah.
Because Alfred is a hell of a costume designer.
I know, man. He makes that Robin costume in no time at all, and then he does, and then he's made a spare ice costume for Batgirl.
That fits perfectly.
Yeah.
It fits. Now, supposedly he hasn't seen his niece in years. Hadn't seen her in years, but he's got her measurements down. Cool, man, that suit fits like, I mean, the cape is at the right length and everything like that.
And hey, you know what? Just saying, how come we didn't get nipples on her bat suit?
Now see, that's what I was waiting for. That's what I was waiting for. I said, when she turned around, I said, am I going to, I guess not. But on the whole, when, as I said at the very beginning of this, Batman and Robin, you can enjoy it best if you just take it. But then again, it all depends on how you feel about the 1966 Batman,
right,
with Adam West. Because a lot of people don't like it. If you like it and you take this movie as a reboot / homage / remake of that, show, I think that you will enjoy it a lot more. Matter of fact, I'm with you. I like this more. You know what? I like this more than I do, the previous movie, Batman Forever.
Yeah, same here. My opinion is completely flipped on it because Batman Forever is just, it has nothing going for it, really.
Yeah.
This is a movie that you can have fun with. You can't really have fun watching Batman Forever.
Yeah, this is a mess. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, it's a total mess
from start to finish, but it's also fun to watch.
Yeah,
it is. Batman Forever is not fun to watch.
No. This is why, I've said to people, and I stand by this, I think Batman v Superman is the worst superhero film ever made. Worse than Batman and Robin. Because Batman and Robin is fun. It's stupid. It makes no sense. It's incoherent. Everybody is, nobody is taking it seriously. But somehow it still makes me laugh. This is a movie I can have a few beers while I'm watching and I can laugh my ass off at it. It's like The Room. It's like The Room. It's so bad it's good.
Yeah, and everybody, with the exception of Chris McDonald, look like they're having a good time making this movie.
Yeah.
They look like they're having fun making it,
Which we know they weren't from what they've said about the stories afterwards. But, to Joel, they were under lots of pressure, and to Joel Schumacher's credit, he stuck with it. He defended the cast with the Alicia Silverstone thing we mentioned, and he turned in this movie 2 weeks ahead of schedule. So he did his job. He got paid, and he got all the shit on him. Where I don't remember any executives being fired for this train wreck.
Exactly. None of the suits that greenlighted this guy,
and they forced him to make all these changes and forced him to do it this way. I mean, come on.
Exactly. They didn't step up and say, well, listen, we were the ones that told him to make it like this.
Yeah. And one more thing I wanted to mention about George Clooney is that under better circumstances, I think he could have been a good Bruce Wayne. But the thing about George Clooney in this movie, and I think it's in part because of his exhaustion, is he's too George Clooney. He doesn't really try at all as Batman. As Bruce Wayne, I can totally picture that. George Clooney in his regular persona, the types of roles he usually plays, that's Bruce Wayne. Now, if you gave him the kind of personality from his character in Syriana or something like that, that would have been good as Batman. So there is a world where I can see George Clooney playing a good Batman, but he just was not experienced enough. He was exhausted at this time. The script didn't give him any favors. And he's just not able to really do anything in this movie. And he's too George Clooney. He's got too much of that, George Clooney's got kind of this smugness about him in his performances. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing. It's just he does have this kind of smugness in his performance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it works for him when he did the Ocean's 11
Oh
movie.
yeah, totally. It totally works for him in those movies.
Yeah, it works.
And most times it does work, but in
most
this
time
movie,
it worked for him. But
in this movie it doesn't really work. But I can also kind of understand, because it does kind of seem, when you're dealing with Chris O'Donnell being a petulant teenager, I can understand why he'd be a smug son of a bitch the whole time.
He works best as Bruce Wayne. Like, I think like the best scenes he has in this movie is when he has about like 2 or 3 really sizable heart-to-heart conversations with Alfred.
Right.
And I think that those are the scenes that he's in that works the best. And
Right.
like you said, Michael Gough himself, since he's had experience working with all the actors that have played the same character, he does his best to, make you believe that this is the same guy we've been following through, 3 movies.
Yeah,
As
Michael
Batman-
Gough is really the heart of this movie. Like, this movie does not connect at all to the rest of the series without him. Even with Chris O'Donnell having been in the last movie, like, it still does not connect.
Oh no,
Unless you
there's
have
like
Michael
two
Gough
different.
there.
There's like 2 different characters.
Right.
It really is. Like I said, if we're talking about the comic books, this is more Jason Todd than Dick Grayson.
Right. And, like, the really dickish Jason Todd.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
The one that
he's
everybody wanted to kill. So that's...
Yeah. I mean, you go through half of it. I mean, I was watching this movie last night, and I was just saying, man, why does Batman just call off and smack the shit out this kid?
Yeah.
Really.
Just like the meme. Yeah. Robin's such a dick.
Yeah, after a while, you just want to hold, why are you taking this shit from him?
Yeah.
He's Robin, you're Batman,
Yeah.
smack
the shit out of that little kid. Yeah.
Yeah, send him to his room.
Send the
Until he learns
35-year-old.
how to,
Send the 35-year-old man to his room.
Listen, if you want to act like a 5-year-old, I'm going to treat you like a 5-year-old. Go to your room. With no dessert.
Yeah.
Alfred, no dessert. Seriously.
Especially now you got Batgirl and you got Barbara in there, who's much more tolerable,
much more tolerant, and who wants to be a team player and wants to,
and apparently doesn't need any training. All she has to do is put on the costumes. So.
Another thing that I like about this movie that I'm gonna put in, that if they had ever and I wish they had carried it on through the rest of the Batman movies that they did, but they didn't. And I really wish they did, because it's kind of iconic, just like when Christopher Reeve used to do the flyover at the end of the Superman movies.
Oh, the running in front of the bat
signal,
yeah,
and they have Batman running from,
it's because Burton had his own signature thing where he had the bat signal flashing in the sky and Alfred driving someone away. And then you had someone looking up at the bat signal, right? And Batman, it was Batman himself looking up while Alfred drives Vicky Vale away. In Batman Returns, Alfred's driving Bruce himself, and then it's Catwoman looking up at the signal. And then Batman Forever, it's Batman and Robin running in front of the bat signal. And then in this movie, it's Batman, Robin, and Batgirl running in front of the bat signal.
Yeah. I kind of like that. I said, oh, wow. Yeah, I said, something? Now that's actually kind of cool. If they did another movie, I would have hoped that they would have kept that,
But yeah, we didn't get that. So yeah, I think we've talked about everything we need to talk about with this movie.
But yeah, as I said, and again, folks, I am not going to sit up here and tell you this movie does not have its problems.
Oh no, it's got a laundry list of problems.
But I will say this: it does, and like I admitted, for a lot of years I did not like this movie, but I was watching it last night, and you know what? I had a good time watching it.
Yeah.
It's not a perfect movie at all, but and know something? Listen, let me tell you what. I watched that movie that you was telling me about, Batman, the Assault on Arkham.
Yeah.
I'd rather watch this than Assault on Arkham.
Yeah.
If you gave me a choice, but that was a terrible movie. It wasn't a good Batman movie, and it wasn't a good Suicide Squad movie.
Right, exactly.
It was a terrible movie. I said, oh my God. Thank God this thing was only in like an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd rather watch this.
No, if you there are some Assault on Arkham's a good example. Batman v Superman's a good example. Batman Forever, another good example. I would rather watch Batman and Robin than any of those.
Yeah, Batman v. Yeah. If you gave me a choice, I'd rather watch this.
Yeah, because at least this I can have fun with, and I don't feel like killing myself after the movie's over.
Exactly. I'm not looking at the car and say, "Oh God, is this thing ever going to be over?"
Right. Yeah. All right. Any last thoughts? I think that was a pretty good summation, but do you have anything else you wanted to add about this movie?
No, I think that's it. I think that we have said we've had the last word about Batman and Robin that I think can be said. You know what? At this point, nothing we can say is going to change the mind of somebody. And you know something? People have hated this movie for years.
Oh my God.
Oh,
yeah.
You know, it's really kind of, I don't know, to me, astonishing. How can you spend that many years hating something that much?
Yeah, it's nuts.
You know,
but like, you know, their entire YouTube channels, YouTubers who have devoted their entire careers to hating on this movie.
Yeah, people, there are people that have made a career out of this movie. It's really, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, folks. I don't have that much energy in my life to hate something. You know what? I always tell people this. I reserve that type of hatred for people that owe me money.
Yeah.
Not for movies.
Speaking of, you still owe me that Black Panther check.
Yes, I do. Listen. Believe it or not, I just got through with the bees.
Yeah, that's what you were saying like 3 months ago.
2 weeks. Listen, there's a lot of people I owe money to, man. You have no idea. People are coming out of the woodworks, you know, with IOUs. Oh, you remember when you? Oh, shit, you too.
All right. Okay, so we'll add it to the tab.
Okay.
I'm still computing the interest, so
I know you are.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so Batman and Robin was my pick for this week. So that means we're tossing it back to you for next week.
Okay, we're gonna go, since we've done a lot of DC lately, we're gonna go to Marvel.
Okay.
And we're gonna go and I'm going to, since we did a controversial movie this time around, I think I feel obligated to kind of stick with that. So I'm going to pick a movie that I myself unabashedly love, but one that was quite controversial at the time it came out, and I think it still is. It's one of my favorite Marvel movies. I don't know if it's one of yours, but it's Thor.
Oh, the first one?
The first one, the first Thor.
Okay, yeah, I like the first Thor. When you said, okay. I thought you were leaning towards The Dark World, because that's one that a lot of people hate.
Oh yeah, everybody hated The Dark World, but
I like The Dark World, but I like Thor too. So yeah, so I'll have fun talking about that.
Okay, here's the thing. I understand why people didn't like The Dark World. I understand that, which I usually can. When people tell me why they don't like, I say, okay, well, I can see it. But I had no problem with it. But that's probably because Thor is my favorite Marvel superhero. So
right,
yeah.
So. Okay, yeah, cool. But no, I'm all in for Thor. I love that movie. So yeah, I'm totally down board with that. Okay. All right, so that does it for this week. Come back next week when we talk about Chris Hemsworth's debut as Thor. Until then, head on over to Facebook.com. Head out to the Superhero Cinephiles group. Just type it in the search bar. You can find it right away. And join in the discussion. You know, we're posting up news stories as they come up. We've got the Patreon page, but if you don't want to commit to a monthly subscription, I did put up a donate button for PayPal. So if you just want to, you know, toss us a little tip here and there, then you can just go over to the website, superherocinephiles.com, just click the donate button, and you can donate however much you want. You want to donate 50 cents, donate 50 cents.
Every little bit helps.
Every little bit helps. Yeah, absolutely. All right. That does it for now. Thanks for listening. And we will, as Derek probably, I'm stealing his slender here, but, you know, we still got the coronavirus out there, and it's gotten worse in America, like monumentally worse. It's actually gotten worse in Japan. We went from like 1 case to like 100 almost overnight.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here it's
because some idiots went to a bar.
Arizona and Texas, Arizona, Texas, and Florida on fire.
Yeah.
This thing is getting out of control.
And it's all because, and you know what, the same thing happened here in Kagoshima. You know, a bunch of idiots went to a bar and they got infected. You know, folks, you know what? I don't know whether y'all can understand this or not, but this is no joke. I don't want to see anybody, especially not any of our loyal listeners, but I don't want to see anybody get sick and die. This thing is serious. You know, if you got a drink,
do what we do. Drink at home.
Yeah, I mean, come on, it's cheaper anyway.
You can drink as much as you want. You don't have to worry about driving home.
Right. Don't got to worry about getting a cab. Don't have to worry about getting in a fight with some asshole. You can just sit back, watch some superhero movies, and get drunk.
Yeah, and
it's fun. Listen, we do it all the time. We do it every week.
All the time.
Yeah.
And I understand, you miss your friends, you want to go out, you want to do it, but you know what? Folks, some of y'all got to start taking this shit seriously.
Yeah. And you know what? I got to say, I'm sick to death of this wearing a mask isn't manly bullshit. I mean, come on. You people grew up wanting to be Batman, and now all of a sudden you think masks aren't manly.
You have an excuse to wear a mask now, and you won't take it.
Yeah.
I don't listen. I'm not looking to die anytime soon. So all I can just say is, please be careful, wash your hands, wear your mask, stay home as much as possible.
Yeah.
And, stay home, watch a bunch of good movies and catch up on, like me, I'm going to catch up on all of those shows that have been in my Netflix queue for at least about 10 years.
Yeah. And like we were saying, I think we've mentioned this before we started recording, but, I asked you how hard did your wife laugh when you said that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Her ribs was, she said, hey, yeah, right. Sure you are.
But but your point is well taken. There is a lot of good stuff out there that's been coming out. I mean, there was I mentioned earlier that my fiance and I, we started watching the Ju-On series, which is pretty damn good. So if you like horror stuff, there's that. There's also, they've got the Warrior Nun TV show, which is based on a comic book. I haven't seen it yet, but I hear it's pretty good.
I hear very good things about it. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'll probably watch it this weekend. Yeah.
The new Netflix had a new season of Unsolved Mysteries, which has been off the air for like 20 years now?
Yeah, I have fond memories of watching the original with Robert Stack.
Yeah, in fact, I binged on the new series. What was it, last week? And yeah, it was pretty good. So lots of really good stuff out there. Lots of stuff to watch.
I also plan on catching up to, which I haven't watched it yet, but I hear nothing but good things about it. The new Twilight Zone.
Oh, okay. Is that out? I didn't know that was out yet.
Yeah, with Jordan Peele. He's the host now.
So is that on? What is that on?
All Access, CBS All
Access. Okay. That's why I didn't know about it, because I don't have All Access.
Yeah. Well, we got it because, we didn't have it until my wife, who is probably a bigger Star Trek fan than I am, when Picard came on.
Right.
She signed up for it, because she loves anything that's got to do with Star Trek.
Well, also, they had on Disney Plus, they had Hamilton, the recording of Hamilton on Broadway, which, I'm not a musical guy, and I thought that was great.
We watched that on the 4th of July. I did my usual thing, because I always watch the movie 1776.
Sit down, John.
Yeah, that's like every 4th of July I watch that on Turner Classic Movies, and I also have it on Blu-ray. But we watch it. And let me say this about Hamilton, folks. If you haven't seen it yet on Disney Plus, I'm going to go so far as to say it's worth signing up for Disney Plus to watch not only The Mandalorian, but Hamilton, because I hear a lot of things get hyped all the time. Hamilton is the first thing I've seen in quite a few years that actually did live up to its hype.
Yeah.
That thing was out of sight.
And like I said, I'm not a musical guy. I don't really care much for hip hop music, but I was really getting into these songs. It is really good. And the performances are excellent.
Those songs were fantastic. And of course we're having people of color play these historical characters. It gives a whole new vibe and energy.
Oh, yeah.
This whole story, And the thing that one guy, he wrote all the songs and the lyrics and the music and everything like that. That guy's a genius.
Oh, I'm sorry. Lin-Manuel Miranda. Yeah.
Amazing. That guy's a freaking genius, man. Because that's, we watched it on the 4th of July. I'm probably going to watch it again sometime this weekend because I want to let some time go by again. So let my excitement build back up again. But I'm looking forward to watching it again because it really is good, folks. If you have not seen Hamilton yet, please do yourself a favor. Like I said, This is just me, but I honestly believe it's worth signing up for Disney Plus just to watch that.
And then, after you watch Hamilton, watch Thor and prepare for our next week's episode.
Yeah, because they've got all the Marvel movies on there too. You can watch Thor, and keep it because we're going to do more Marvel movies.
Yeah. We haven't even scratched the surface of the Marvel stuff. So there's a lot of stuff where you got to talk about.
Yeah, actually, we did what? Doctor Strange, Black Panther.
Not even the MCU Doctor Strange. We just did the TV version, so we didn't even talk about the MCU one. Yeah, but we did Black Panther, we did First Avenger, and we did Guardians 2, and I think that's pretty much all the MCU.
That's pretty much it. We had, like you said, we barely scratched the surface, but we got plenty of time to get into it.
Yeah. All right, so thanks so much for listening, and we will see you next week.
Good night. God bless, and please stay safe out there.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening to the Superhero Cinephiles podcast. If you have any questions or comments about this or any other episode, or if you have a superhero movie or TV show you'd like us to cover in a future episode, you can email us at superherocinephiles@gmail.com, or you can also visit us on the web at superherocinephiles.com. If you like what you hear, leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. Each review helps us reach more potential listeners. You can also support the show by renting or purchasing the movies discussed, or by picking up our books, all of which can be accessed through the website, as well as find links to our social media presences. The theme music for this show is a shortened version of Superhero Showdown, a royalty-free piece of music courtesy of BesleonStudios.com.